Hello, and Bill Molyneux here with Bill's History World with none other than Goober the Traveling Bear. And we have a special guest here. We have Uncle Buck. And Uncle Buck, what did you bring us? Another piece of artwork.
Yes, this is a reproduction of Antonio Jacobson's portrait of a ship called the Challenge. Not the Challenger, the Challenge. It was launched in 1851 in New York Harbor, and its primary mission was to serve the New York to San Francisco route. Right after the gold rush began, there was an incredible demand for raw materials, including lumber and clothing and even food. But it was a 16,000-mile journey to go all the way around the bottom of South America and get up to San Francisco. Speed was particularly important. Nobody doubted that this radical new design for an extreme clipper ship could make the trip in less than 100 days. As it turned out, the ship arrived in San Francisco in 90 days. It couldn't leave San Francisco because all of the sailors jumped ship and joined the rush for gold in California. So it stayed in San Francisco for quite a while. This ship was commissioned and built by two brothers, Nathaniel Lind Griswold and his brother George Griswold. These two guys had a fleet of boats engaged in the China trade. Their main ship was called the Panama, and the Panama and the Challenge flew the Griswold House flag, which was a blue and white checker flag. Now, of all the teas that came to the east coast of the United States, it was the Panama brand that was considered to be the best. And they had a ship that sailed to China twice a year in order to get tea for the American market. Now there's a whole separate story about the English and the Scottish merchants who had to go to China to get their own tea, but this was the most formidable ship ever made. In 1851, this was the largest ship on the planet at 227 feet, which is the length of 4 tractor trailers. So this is a pretty darn big ship. There's an interesting story which has been written in this book by Whipple, who is the main author of all clipper ship books, about a race between the Flying Cloud and the Challenge. The Challenge was built by a shipbuilder named William Webb, and there was a guy named McKay who built the Flying Cloud. Nobody's ever heard of the Challenge because it came into San Francisco Bay 6 hours after the Flying Cloud. But the Flying Cloud was an exceptional ship in its own right. Now, it served as a China tea clipper for virtually all of its life, but became decrepit in the 1880s. And its last resting place is off the coast of France, where it was a coal scow for probably 10 years. I've always thought that it might be a good idea to take my scuba gear to France and go pay my last respects to the ship that I admire more than any other ship in the world. By the way, I bought the original of this portrait after waiting 20 years for it to come back up for auction. Every day, Google would send me an email message about whether or not Jacobson's Challenge was up for sale. It finally came up for sale about 6 months ago. I took the original out to Pittsburgh. I had 200 copies made, and I have more than happily provided this copy to my friends Bill and Lisa Molyneux.
Well, thank you very much. And I need to ask a question. Was a clipper ship armed with any kind of artillery to defend itself?
Even today, commercial ships don't carry any weapons of any sort because of the insurance implications of a commercial vessel turning into a military vessel.
All right. Anything else, Uncle Buck, before we sign off?
There's another portrait painted by Antonio Jacobson of the Flying Cloud. I've looked for that one for at least 20 years. When that portrait comes up for sale, I'll buy it, and I'll have the original of the Challenge on one wall, and on the opposite wall I will have the Jacobson portrait of the flying cloud.
Well, thank you very much for this wonderful gift. I know Lisa's already looking for a wall to put this on. And stay safe, be kind, and be courteous, everyone. And Uncle Buck always makes the greatest videos for me. Thank you, everyone.
Happy New Year.